GPS speed evals once you get there? Like, what are you looking at? How are you measuring it? What are kind of, without giving away your secrets, obviously, but just, a 10,000 foot view of what you do?
Yeah, there's really no secrets, to be honest. I didn't invent anything. I just find the people that do a really good job and then combine some things together. So the first thing is to go like super high level is some type of physical testing. Now that physical testing to me is like take away all the technical, like how you hit the ground and all that, whatever, and let's just look at time and velocity. So how fast do you run? If you really want to get into force velocity stuff, you look at how do you accelerate to that speed. And that could be done split times, that could be done GPS, that could be done lasers, but some type of physical profiling. So let me understand, I have a squad of 100 players, and across those 100 players, I want to know which athletes are really good accelerators, which guys hit a really high velocity, and which guys struggle somewhere in the middle. So like that's the physical profiling. The second profiling I do is more on the technical side. And really, the first thing I look at from the technical side is based around your signature of how you run, are there any risks? Based around your signature of how you run, are there any risks? So, like, for example, if an athlete spends a long time in the air and has a really far step length, you can assume that they're crashing into the ground with these high impacts. You're going to see a lot of foot, ankle, calf, those types of things. This is all James Wild's research out of England. Or it could be you spend a lot of time on the ground, you have this really short step length, so you spin really fast. Like, okay, like what are the areas that we've seen based on research that are at risk? All right, that's the first thing on technical. And the second thing on technical is if we do interventions, what can we change and how well can we change it? So like if you see a certain signature, like everyone talks about this big backside swing, like is it bad, right? Now, if we make a change to this big backside swing, is it going to make the athlete faster? Is it going to make them safer? And is it going to increase their performance? If the answer is no anywhere in there, we're not going to change it. If it's yes, we can, and we have a runway, we have a build up, we have time, we're going to change it. And then the third thing is like just kind of monitoring changes. So there are teams that we're doing this with now where they're taking a technical profile like once every 2 weeks, and you're seeing the effects of gameplay and how it's changing their running signature, and you're starting to kind of predict or look at what might pop up in the future, whether you're going to get slower or you're going to potentially get an injury or things like that. And we're not stepping on any rehab toes. Like, we don't define who's going to get injured. They do, but we give them the information. So yeah, there's really those levels. And then the last level is like if I really want to go deeper and look at force plate analysis. We do a lot of Alex Natera's isometric test, but there's different layers, and not every team does layers, and sometimes it's just give me the last year of practice of GPS data, and let's look at how we practice, and come to find out you don't do anything fast in practice and you do all the junk volume. So let's start there, and like let's just change practice and let's see the change. So that's it's pretty open-ended, but to be 100% transparent, like I don't build my business around doing consultancy or doing that, so it's more of a passion thing, and I can be very objective and very honest because I'm not doing that necessarily for the money. I'm doing that because it's a passion, and I don't play video games, so like that's what I do, for video game type stimulation for my brain. So yeah, long answer, but yeah.
No, that was a great answer. What do you think about within that force velocity profiling that you talked about? How do you see it being used well and poorly within the weight room, where it's like, okay, we're going to spend all this time trying to high force or high velocity need for people on the field, but then I feel like it gets kind of ruined in the weight room. Have you seen that? And if so, again, not naming names or anything, but just on your experience, what have you seen, the good and the bad? Taking a quick break from the show, everybody. Promise this will take less than 15 seconds. Friendly reminder, go ahead, hit that subscribe button below. It helps us out, and it helps you out by being notified whenever we have new content come out. So hit that subscribe button, and with this, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, for sure. Like going back to what I was saying about communication, and you have the strength coach, and then you got the on-field guy, and then you got the sports scientist, and you got the sport coach. And a lot of times they're on very separate pages. So like there's philosophies out there. It's like, well, that force velocity stuff doesn't work. And well, let me look at the other components. It's very dependent which is why it's a flawed test and it's a flawed implementation, like every test is. But if you don't have the buy-in in terms of building a program based around like sprint-based philosophy, like I'm trying to get my players faster, and to do that, I'm supporting it with weight room and supporting it with practice and supporting it with all these things. You're not going to have the result. So yeah, it's difficult if you are doing like a hypertrophy program in the weight room and you're trying to emphasize max velocity on the field. Like those two things don't go together. Well, I mean, all the way back to Charlie Francis, it's just like if we're gonna do a very like stacked periodization where we're gonna emphasize qualities, like we're gonna do all things, but in what quantities we're gonna do those things. If we don't have that communication and that line of there's no point in doing the testing. You know what I mean? Just operate how you're operating. So yeah, it's difficult for sure.
For any of the people that are listening out there and they're like, all right, we're trying to do this and we're in the off season and we're going to do it the right way. What would you tell them? Like, okay, this would be, how you should do it from a 10,000 foot view, the right way based off of all the good things you've seen.
Yeah, I would start with that physical profiling. So your options are, you could do like, if you have lasers, I would just get an understanding of how athletes accelerate and how they hit velocity. So if you did splits like 10 and 40, whatever. If you're doing force velocity profiling, that's a really good tool to understand early, late, and velocity. And then there's video in there too, but I would just stick with those first two. So understand across your team how athletes are accelerating to their velocity. And then from there, the second thing I would do is make it split by position group or position. So you have your lineman, you have your big skill, you have your skill. And then I would compare within that group how the athletes are. So like within my skill players, you're at the bottom of your acceleration ability or the top of your acceleration ability, right? And then the third thing I would do is I would look at, based around need and then based around our timeline, how should we build out our training? So if I have 4 weeks before the season, the truth is you're not going to do that. You're not going to make any significant changes. You might as well just keep doing what you're doing. But if I'm right here in the year and then I play in August, you do have a window. You got 12 weeks. So you know that you take your whole 12 weeks and you look at your different phases. Your first phase, I would say that's the time where you can attack like everybody very generally. Like everybody kind of needs the same base, just like GPP. It's very general. Everybody's running with heavy sleds. Everybody's accelerating. Everybody's getting stronger in the weight room. Then your second phase is where I would say now you can start to be a little bit more specific and individual. So like you have your underperforming accelerators, you have your underperforming velocity guys, you start to give them more specific stimulus. So my guys, my 4 receivers that are terrible off the ball, you guys are going to continue going heavy or continue doing power stuff. And then that last phase, the last 4 weeks, I would say you're back to more general where everybody needs to run fast and everyone needs to increase their volume as they go into camp and as they go into and get more specific with decelerations, changes of directions, getting into camp. So I would say I would be very general in the beginning. Everybody does the same. In the middle, I would get more specific to what players need. And then at the end, I would be general again in terms of stimulus.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. Why don't you celebrate by watching more videos just like it? You can also help us on our quest to placate the algorithm gods by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. Thank you.